about that time for us to get off. So cut the rattle, yo, get set in your saddle. Mount your horse, the countdown begun. The groove be chill, surprise. You don't see nothing, all of a sudden, the curtain rise.
What's up, YouTube, and welcome to episode 3 of Making Gil in A Realm Reborn. Now, I've had a kind of a busy week this week, so I didn't get to play quite as much as I would have liked to. But I still managed to, I leveled my archer to 15 so I could pick up Black Mage as my job. And I managed to make a decent amount of gold on by playing the market board. And in the process, I leveled my Goldsmith to 43. Just before we get into the usual sort of bestsellers and whatnot, just want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about account security. It's a pretty boring subject, but as you notice the amount of gold sellers in this game, but maybe you don't realize that most of those are actually compromised accounts, and basically people who's been hacked because they got either weak security or they've been on dodgy websites and downloaded Trojans or whatever to that have hacked their account, and basically they are now being used to spam gold selling. Now on the App Store and on the Android market as well, there's an authenticator you can get for free. It's just like the one for Warcraft, and it's called the Square Enix Software Token. It takes about 2 minutes to download and set up, and it's really useful. It just adds an extra layer of security to your account. Also, if your password isn't very strong, I'd recommend just quickly changing it, at least 8 characters, and throw some numbers in there as well, because every little bit of security helps really. It only takes a few minutes to do. Now that that's over and done with, let's have a look at what we've done this week. As you remembered, I finished last week with about 375k. I sunk about 270k into buying materials this week. I actually didn't have the time to play the game as much as I would have liked to, so I didn't do any gathering at all this week. I didn't level my mining class at all. I would have loved to, but it just takes so long, and I really didn't have the time. I was busy in real life with some other stuff. So I was leveling purely off of the market board. I bought everything I was using to craft from the market board, and obviously I sold it on the market board as well. So let's just have a quick look how we did. Now, because I wasn't using Tweddle for selling any gathering mats this week, what I actually did was I split my sales into 2 types of auction. I had the level 26 to 30 being sold on Tweddle, as well as a few items from 31 to 35. And I had the level 36 to 40 recipes selling on Dizzy. Now, the level 26 to 30, they were still selling and they were still profitable, but the margins on them for the amount of effort and the cost of materials didn't really make it worth my time. So about halfway through the week, I actually stopped selling with those, and I just mainly concentrated on a few recipes that were still selling profitably from that level range. But mostly my primary focus was on the level 36 to 34 items, the crafting items, which I made through Goldsmithing. So we'll just have a quick look at what Tweddle was carrying now. And remember, Tweddle was the one with the lower level recipes. And we actually managed to make 186 880 gil, which is still not too bad. But as I say, halfway through the week, I kind of just gave up on it. Because I didn't have as much time, and I wasn't farming any mats, so I was spending a lot of money on the silver mithril, the silver ore, and and obviously the shards as well. And the returns on it just wasn't enough for the amount of time I was spending doing it. So I only made 186. Now out of that 186, I made a lot of gold, a lot of gil rather, from 2 recipes in particular, which was the silver choker, the crafting recipe, which is a level 31 to 35 recipe. The materials on it were quite cheap. The old gold level was actually it was the most expensive part, but I bought in bulk and I got them fairly cheap, enough that I was still making a decent margin on my sales. And also I made a particular worth mentioning this week, the wolf earrings. I was selling for about 5k each, and the wolf bone, the mithril, and the boar leather were all fairly cheap. and I would estimate that I was spending maybe 1k to make, and I was getting 4k profit. So definitely worth looking at this recipe here. Doesn't seem to be many people, many people posting them on the market board. So I was selling, I think I ended up selling, actually I'll just check it for you. I sold 13 over the week, so I was selling about 2 a day at 5k each. So that's easily, a lot of gold there. That's what, let me see now, 5k times 13, let me do my maths here, is 6.5k I think. 65k rather, I should say. 65k from just this particular recipe. So all in all, not too shabby. Let's withdraw that and make a fresh bank for next week. And if we move on to my second retainer, Dizzy. Now Dizzy was selling the level 36 to 40 items, and the mithril on my server at least is very cheap. The raw rocks that you can turn into the gems was also very cheap. So I was seeing some very high margins on these items. Some items were selling for 4.5k, with probably about a cost of a couple of hundred to make. Maybe that's a bit conservative. Probably a bit more than that, but the margins were extremely high. Top best sellers for the level 36 to 40 range were the mithril ring, which I sold 21 of over the week. The mithril ring of crafting, which I sold 16 of, and that had quite a high sale price, I think averaging around about 3k there. So again, a very decent margin and a very decent amount of money being brought in by that particular recipe. The peridot ring I sold 13 of over the week, and again they were selling for 2.5, 3k. And Heliodor ring I sold 15 of. Didn't have really any competition on those, and I believe I was selling them for about 4.5k each at their peak. So definitely some recipes to look into there. Obviously, it will depend on how your server is. Towards the end of this week, I noticed that quite a few more people were beginning to sell these item ranges. I don't know if it was people deciding to level their goldsmithing up and reaching these levels, and I just had more people to compete with, or if there was somebody doing it before I got there and they'd just been slack and I'd had a good week. I'm not too sure, but definitely if you camp these items, if you craft these and you're constantly ensuring that you're lowest price, you will definitely see a decent turnover of gold there. So check out how much gold we brought in on this one. This particular retainer managed to make 420,383 gil over the course of the week, which is not too shabby at all, bringing my new total up to 709k. For 2 weeks work, I'd say that's not too bad. And also bearing in mind that I did sink in about 270k to buy the mats for this week. So really that would have been 970k for the week, 980k give or take. For 2 weeks work, which I don't think is too bad, especially considering we haven't even gotten to the stage where we're able to craft, the end game items and get onto the real money spinners. So all in all, pretty decent week there. Next week again, I'm gonna be pushing to try and get my goldsmith to 50. It's gonna be a race to 50. I'm not gonna use any lev quests. I'm actually just gonna focus purely on market board trading again, and hopefully with these whole new items I just learned how to craft today, these endgame items here, I would hope that the experience from them, crafting them for the first time and selling them, would be enough to push me to 50, and then we can have a real look next week at what is really going to make that endgame money for goldsmithing, and we'll start looking at what class to level next. So there we have it. I hope you guys found this week's helpful. I'm sorry if it was a little shorter than usual, but as I said, I haven't really had as much time as I would like to have put into the game this week. So I will check you next week for the next episode, and we should hopefully have we should be able to do a recap on goldsmithing, and we can see exactly what we should be concentrating on as we're leveling and what we should be making our money from at end game. And we'll look at what the next class we're going to do. I don't know. I started weaving at just for fun when I was my first week in the game. So I got 10 levels on that. Maybe I'll move on to that, or maybe possibly leather working. I'm actually pretty keen to see how leather working is doing, because when I'm buying the skins off of the market board, I'm noticing that the price on them is rather high. So I'm hoping that's quite a nice money spinner there. But tune in next week. We'll see how we do, and check out the data blast for some more detailed information. I'll check you next week. Thank you.
Yes, I want it all, so I get it all. I wanna eat the whole cake. I'm not sharing. You should have let bitches love cake.
That time for us to get off, so cut the rattle, yo, get set in your saddle, mount your horse, the countdown begun, the groove be chill, surprise, you don't see none all of a sudden.